All right, everybody, here we go. We are officially starting on the XCub. Let's do it. All right, first off, we want to thank everybody for commenting on the unboxing video, kind of giving us your opinion on whether you want a really detailed build or kind of just a real quick streamlined setup. It was pretty much, I'd say almost unanimous. Everybody wanted the real detailed stuff, kind of what we did with the Carbon Cub. And that's cool because we got to do it anyway. So we'll kind of document it and hopefully help anybody in the future if you guys decide to build an XCub, because this plane is cool. You thought the Carbon Cub was cool. This thing's really cool. There's a lot of upgrades, and we're going to kind of show you some differences here and there as we go that we've noticed so far. But anyway, we're going to go by the manual, try to go in order, just, you know, like you would do. But first step, we're actually going to start with the control horns. So we got a lot of gluing, I should say epoxying. And you can see, Mary, if you can see, there's every control surface has a double slot. So it's going to use 2 horns per slot. And what it does is it sandwiches an actual ball end. So that's right off the bat, something different. The XCub, or sorry, the Carbon Cub used Z-bends, which, you know, they work, but on a plane this big, you really want some nice ball ends, and the XCub has it, guys. Another cool thing that Ali did on this is he labeled the control horns for you. So you can see elevator, aileron, and rudder. So really helpful when you're digging through the bag. You know, there's no guesswork. You just dig through the hardware bag, grab the horns and the ball ends. So the reason we have the ball ends right now is because they want you to, when you're letting the glue dry, they want you just basically to sandwich it and let the glue dry like that. So that's why we have these out right now. That's all we're gonna do. So we've got 6 ball ends and 6 M3 by 15s, and that's just gonna hold it all together while the glue dries. So once again, just dig through the hardware bag and you'll get it all. We're gonna use 30-minute epoxy, denatured alcohol to clean up any epoxy mess, and a couple little files and sandpaper to prep the edges that, you know, insert in there. We gotta get the paint off. So we're gonna start right here. Let's go. So we'll just start going through all these. Basically, what you're gonna do, you know, get the paint off the part that goes into the wing. So I'm gonna use a file here and just start filing away. Just start getting the paint off. You can use sandpaper too. I'll probably use a combination of both. But basically you just want to get the paint off. You don't want to really take too much material off because then they're going to fit a little too loose in there. See, I might like start using some sandpaper now because I'm afraid of it getting too loose. And you can tape off the control horn too if you're afraid of getting your file on there, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. It's not a big deal.
And we're doing this so that the epoxy will adhere to the horn better. Yeah,
you definitely want to create a tooth, they call it. So you sand it and it creates a nice tooth for the glue to grab onto, because it will not hold on that paint. It might hold for a flight or two, but that epoxy will, over time, come loose and down goes your plane. So yeah, make sure you prep these surfaces real nice and you won't have any issue. So you can see I kind of just took most of the glue, or most of the paint off with the file. Now I'm just kind of doing the end bit. All right, so you can see you're left with a nice prepped horn.
Looking good.
So we're gonna
do the rest.
Just do the rest. We're gonna basically just sand all these guys. So right off the bat, you got a lot of sanding to do. So we're just gonna kind of start sanding. All right, we just finished sanding all the horns. Well, I shouldn't say all of them, everything but the rudder. So you can see all we're doing is just taking off, you know, the paint on the tab and just scuffing it up, make sure there's no shiny spots. And then you'll notice that it, you know, because it's laser engraved, so even after you sand the paint off, you can still read what it says. You know, we're gonna wipe all these with denatured alcohol because we gotta fully clean them. You know, you got your oil from your hands on them, and you just wanna make sure there's no paint dust. But right now, those are looking good. I have not test fit them yet, so we'll test fit them in a little bit. We might have to sand a little more off, so that's why I haven't cleaned them yet. But the rudder, so this was a little different because they want you to actually insert this
and mark it. Right?
And mark it. So it just goes through like that.
Yeah, and there's a little, like a tab that stops
that prevents it from going all the way through. So I can kind of see, so we might have to open this hole up a little. Yeah, see.
Oh, it's pretty tight still.
Yeah, it's tight. I can see actually, yeah, there's wood in there, in that top one. You're not, good luck seeing that, but
yeah,
the top one has stuff in it. The bottom,
you might have to file it down. Actually, yeah, you can see it.
Even the bottom one, I gotta shape that a little.
Okay. So yeah, you might have to file it down to get it to fit.
Yeah, I gotta round that off a little.
Okay.
So yeah, because this one you gotta get this slot ready. Just got these little files from Harbor Freight. They're a great little file set, by the way. Cheap, tons of different shapes.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, still sanding.
Almost there.
Just going real slow. You gotta kind of round this corner off, what I was saying. We've been kind of sanding and rounding and checking. Better to go slow than
too much. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can see we've rounded it off. I'll show you compared to the other one. I've cleaned these slots out, so I know those are cleaned out. There it goes. Okay.
So it just needed a little.
So there's one.
bit.
You can see some of the white paint wore off, but I'm gonna touch that up later. And then the tabs just hold it right where it needs to be.
Middle. Okay.
So let's compare it to the other one here, actually. Let's overlay it. I don't know if you're gonna be able to tell, but see the shadow?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's maybe like not even a 16th. I mean, maybe a millimeter. Just rounded that corner off. Now that I know how much to take off, I can kind of go a little faster. I'm actually gonna use the bigger file now. So we got both rudder horns in. And so basically, you know, they're U-shaped, so you end up with two on each side, the double. So now, what we gotta do is just kind of take a felt pen or whatever you got, just mark the line, and that lets you know how much paint to sand off the middle. So I'm just gonna make two little marks. There you go. So just make sure these are pushed in all the way from that side. And they are. Just making a little, there we go. Making a little line. Pen really doesn't go all the way in there, but I got a little mark on there, so it'll be pretty obvious. All that does is lets us know where to sand and take off the paint. That one's got a full line. That one just kind of got a half a line, but my pen wouldn't reach in there. But yeah, you can. It's pretty obvious where we got to sand in the center. Let's go. Lots of sanding. All right, everybody, so we got everything all sanded up. Took a little bit, but it's, you know, just you gotta work through the paint, just go slow. But anyway, we're gonna do test fits now. So before we even think about mixing up any epoxy, you just, like always, you gotta dry fit, test fit. So we're gonna just grab two ailerons, see how they fit. Oh yeah, and I did clean these pockets out, by the way. So I just ran a file, just kind of like that, just to make sure there wasn't any gunk in there, and then I vacuum it out real quick. So we'll see how these go here. Oh, that's perfect. So it's snug but not tight. Like it went in nice and snug. I didn't have to force it in. So he's tight, but I think it's the pocket, to be honest with you. But That's okay. We'll just custom, you know, do each one for each pocket, and then we'll just leave them there until we're ready.
Yeah.
And once we get these, you know, to where we like it, we'll wipe these with alcohol to get our fingerprints, you know, our oil off and any little leftover dust. Oh yeah.
Better.
That's much better. So snug, but not tight. Okay, so he's ready to go for some glue. So we'll leave that. Let's do the same thing with the other ones. I've got the elevator sitting here, so let's do the elevator. Elevator. Okay, that's
nice one.
Something in there. Sometimes you gotta just round these corners off just a tad so they don't catch on anything. You know, you don't want it loose in there, but sometimes because the corners are so sharp.
There you go.
So he goes. There we go. All right. When you're putting these in, there you go. Mm-hmm. So you want to sit flat. So you gotta be careful it doesn't, you know, you gotta be careful it's not like that. See how it's uneven? Gotta make sure they both go all the way down. Those tabs sit flush. Looking good. All right, so that's good. Move that to the side. We've already test fit the rudder, so we know those both go in there. Mm-hmm. So that's no issue. And then we got the other wing. Let's just come over here. He's in the box. Okay. Good. Perfect. All right, so for this step, we're gonna wipe down with isopropyl alcohol. Denatured is a little too strong. It started kind of taking the paint off, so it's very weak paint, to be honest with you, on these control horns. So just be careful with that. All right, everybody, so we're just gonna use some 30-minute epoxy. Like I said, showed before, we got the Zap stuff, 30-minute from, I think we got it from Horizon, right? Just some, yeah, I think so. But I'm gonna mix up a little equal amounts here. Not doing too much because we're gonna do one kind of wing or whatever you want to call it at a time. And you can just eyeball the puddles. So we're gonna get some epoxy down in the hole. Gonna work it around. There's a decent amount in there. And we're also gonna put some on the control horn itself. And then you kind of just slide it around in there and, you know, work it. Another thing the directions say to do is put masking tape all around this. I did that on the carbon cub and yeah, it kind of works, but honestly, you still gotta go back with a paper towel and isopropyl alcohol at the end. So I found that the tape didn't make a huge, it wasn't a big time saver in my opinion, because you still got to go clean it up. So we got some more epoxy here. Just put it on the horn itself. Okay, there's one. So I kind of just go up and down a couple times and work it in. Push some of it back in if you want. Hold the bottom with your other hand, just kind of push it all the way down. All right, let's do that one. Okay, push them both down, that's it. So then we got plenty of time here. All right, so we're just gonna wipe up right around the control horn, the little extra that came out. Like I was saying, I feel like you gotta do this regardless of whether you use tape or not. So we got a little Q-tip to get in the middle. There we go. One more swipe down the middle and I'll be happy with that. Okay.
Oh, look at that, nice and clean.
Yeah. So then on the, set that aside over here. Really only needed the Q-tip for the middle part. And then the outside, you can just use your paper towel and create like a little, what they call a fillet. It doesn't take much, just one little swipe. Just start with a new piece each time, because if you keep trying to use it, you're gonna
drag the glue.
You're just gonna move the glue back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. So you can see what we did. We just kind of just made like a little, you know, like a fillet, like what you do when you do caulking or whatever. We gotta go do the rest now. So we're just gonna do kind of a speed up time lapse for the rest, but just identical to that. Set this aside. Number 2 wing done. So we just got everything all glued in. Everything goes really easy and really smooth. I did notice a couple things here. Let me get a pointer. So the rudder is kind of a pain because, as you saw when we were doing our test fitting, it's a big U. So you got to get the epoxy in the slot. So when you go to insert the horns, you're pushing the whole clean side through your epoxy. So what you end up with is a big mess on the other side. There's really no other way to do it because you need to get epoxy in the grooves also. You can't just put it on the horn and slide it in because you're likely not to have it strong enough. But these were kind of a pain. It's just a big cleanup. You just slide it through and then you got to clean it off the other end and then it just wants to slide around. But the most important part of doing this is you got to make sure that these tabs are fully seated. All right, we're back out here the next day. All the epoxy is dry on those control horns. Everything looks great. Nice and stiff, very clean. You can see there's no epoxy residue. So right now, we're gonna hook up the aileron linkages. We're gonna install the servos for the ailerons. We prepped a couple things off camera here. We centered our servos and you can see we've got 2 big red arms on there. So these do not come with the kit. We had to order those separate. Now in the manual, all it says is use long servo arms. It just says long servo arms and they're clearly longer than like the arms that come with servos. Just looking at the pictures, it looked like they ordered like 1.5 inch arms. I ordered 2-inch arms, so it's up to you, but they don't want you using just those stock little stubby arms that come with servos. So we ordered some 2-inch 24 tooth because we're using the high-tech 645s. They use a 24 tooth spline. It's really weird because some of high-tech's servos use 25 tooths. So I don't know, I just wish everything was standardized, but anyway, these use 24, that's what they are.
And we'll link them both.
Yeah, we'll link that, what we used. Like I said, those are all centered up. We've got the little rubber grommets in there and the brass bushings. Now I know a lot of people think you actually have to put the brass bushing in from the top. You actually put it in from the bottom because the bottom, the flange part is what rests against the wood. And then when you put the screw through, you've got a flange on the top. See how now you got a flange on the top with the screw and a flange on the bottom with the brass. So if you did it the other way, all you would end up doing is pushing both flanges together and the sharp part of the brass would just push and dig into the wood. So you actually do it like that, guys. So brass flange on the bottom. That way you get nice, kind of acts like a washer on both sides. And then the rubber bushing can kind of free float. So anyway, that's kind of a little quick tip about the brass bushings there. And a couple other things you're gonna need for setting up these ailerons. You're gonna have to dig out your push rod bag. And what you need is to find the 152 millimeter rods. Works out to 6 inches, but so we got 2 of those for the ailerons. Got some ball ends, M3 washers, M3 lock nuts, and the M3x15 hex bolts. So that's how you're gonna kind of assemble all this. And these are the self tappers for the aileron hatch, for the actual hatch cover. So we got our 152 millimeter rod. We're gonna take 2 rod ends or ball ends, and we're gonna make the total length 175 millimeters. Sorry about all the wind noise today. It's like 30, 35 knots today, and it's shaking our garage door. All right, takes a bit to get started. You kind of got to push really hard as you're spinning, but once you get it started, it just keeps threading. All right, let's see where we're at. So they want these to be 175 total, 175 millimeters. So you can see we're sitting at like 182, 183-ish. Yeah, holding that rod, holding the round rod, it's just, as you can imagine, really hard. So, all right, let's see where we're at. I'd say that's dang near 175. So yeah, we just gotta make another one. Same thing. Okay. I'm gonna go right to the vise this time.
All right.
So we got our 2 rods at 175 millimeters. So now we're gonna get off the hatch cover here. So you can see we got the tape on there. And don't pull that string out, guys, because that string is what is gonna be used to fish the servo wire through. So that is supposed to be there. So I'll just kind of use one other piece of tape for now, just so you don't lose it. All right, so here's the hatch cover. So what we're gonna do now, you can see the holes are in the wood, but they're not in there. So we're just gonna poke a couple holes there, grab something that makes a hole. Toothpick, I got this straight awl, or straight punch, whatever you want to call it. Okay, that's ready. And you can see these are already drilled out for you. But what we do have to do, as per the manual, they want us to make the threads. So what you're gonna do is just take your hatch cover screws, and you're gonna kind of screw it in. Just kind of hold the bottom too. You don't want to push too hard. You're just making some threads, and then we're gonna reinforce it with CA. This is where we're gonna use our thin CA, and this is where having one of those micro dropper tips really comes in handy, because you can control the flow. And I also recommend putting a paper towel below these threads when you do each one, because you don't want it coming through and getting on the bottom side of the wig. So there we go, we're just gonna put some in. Just put some in the threads there. Go to the next one. So we'll let those threads dry, and we're gonna work on getting the servo put into here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we have to drill the holes into the plates here. So first, let's make sure that this fits. Sometimes, oh, we got lucky today. Nice. And we have it backwards, so You see how the arm is at the end of the slot over here? So you want the arm in the center of the slot. Man, that fits nice. I'm really happy because on the Carbon Cub,
so you need the other servo.
Yep, so we'll get the other servo. Tripping over my toolbox. So I don't know if you remember on the Carbon Cub, we actually had to file that slot. So there we go. Look how nice that is. Perfectly in the center that way. You know, left and right, and then perfectly in the center that way. And we have already centered the servos as good as we can get. We'll have to use a little sub trim to make it perfect because we are going to have our ailerons on independent channels this time. We're not using a Y harness, so we're going to have full control over our ailerons this time. Okay, so now what we got to do is we're going to use a marker or a pen or something and just make dots. And then we're going to drill the holes. And then again, reinforce the threads with CA.
Then I think you might need a punch or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Mary. You're so smart.
Did it make a mark?
Yep. So you can see there are 4 marks there. And what they want, according to the manual, get a 5/64 drill bit. We're going to drill the holes. Then we're going to screw the screws in, reinforce it with CA. Here we go. Okay, you can see we got our holes. Looks good. Let's get our vacuum. Okay, so now we're going to use the servo screws. And these are the screws that came with the servo, okay? So once again, I try not to use the same screw for every hole. Just don't like abusing the threads. So we'll just put them all in. We'll just put kind of 4 in here. Those are going in nice. Let's get our paper towel and our cyanoacrylate again. So you don't really want to use kicker there because you want it to soak into the wood and, you know, give it a nice bond. Kicker will just kind of set it up really quick on the surface. You want it to soak into the wood. All right, guys, so we're hooking up the linkages here. Those 2-inch red arms that we got ended up being too long. It ended up putting the rod, you know, the linkage way too high. It was just too much throw. Kind of a cool thing about these arms is on the back side, there's actually dimples for different markings. So it's set at 2 inches. We went to the 1.5. You can see I had to drill the hole, but there's dimples for it. So you just drill the hole out and boom, that puts my rod kind of right parallel with the wing, right where I want it. So the point of that little experiment was when you're ordering your arms, in the manual it just says long servo arm. I ordered 2-inch, what you need is 1.5. So get the 1.5-inch metal servo arms, that's what they want. They want you to have a metal arm for some reason on right there. But, problem solved. Got some M3s here. Setting up the aileron so it's neutral like always. There we go. So we got nice centered, obviously we gotta screw that down, but there we go. So there's the aileron linkage. What I'm gonna do now is just pop this out and we gotta run our extension. So let's lift this out of the way. So the manual calls for a 24-inch extension. Here we go, nothing special. I ordered Spectrum ones. So we have these little clips, the servo connectors. So on the Carbon Cub, I just used heat shrink, but I'm gonna try these out on this plane. But you definitely want something. So black to black. Sometimes it's brown, but you always want the dark color to the dark color. Let's get one of these out. Yeah, so it just slips on and then the wires go through there.
Yep.
That's it.
Keeps it nice and secure.
I guess that's it. Yeah.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah, pretty cool. So yeah, can't come apart now. Okay. So there's that. Yeah, like I said, on the carbon cub, I used some heat shrink. Either way works. These are easier to get undone if you need to real quick, but it won't come undone on its own. This is where the string will come in handy. Mm-hmm. So we are going to tie our string to the end. All right, Mary's gonna pull the string through, just kind of, it might catch here and there, just kind of gotta wiggle it, you know? Okay.
Oh.
Okay, still going.
Hold on.
I know, I'm just wiggling it because you gotta, sometimes it catches on the spars.
Yeah, there's wiring down here, I see.
Did you get it?
Success. Yay! That's it.
Is there, can you see the lead? Or is it in there still?
No, the lead's out.
It is? How much is out?
Oh, like an inch.
Oh.
See?
Okay.
Hello, lead.
Yeah, so that's right there. But that's okay, because we're gonna run those big wire harnesses, the Valley View harnesses.
Okay.
So we have those. So what we're gonna do is tape this up though. So there's the aileron. Mm-hmm. It's safe. So we're gonna screw the panel down. Mm-hmm. Remember we made those threads earlier and reinforced them. So just be careful with the screwdriver and the covering. Extra turn on that guy, there he goes. Final turn. And final turn. All right, there we go, guys. So we got our 175 millimeter rod. I actually went back to 175 millimeter because when it was up here, it was 176, just because it was, you know, longer. But we went back to 175 and it seemed to be perfect. You can see the edge is nice and flush, neutral, and the arm is at perpendicular. Really nice setup. I like the ball ends, I love it. Remember, 1.5 inch arm for your long servo arm that they tell you to get. Other than that, it went together really easily. And yeah, move on to the next wing. So we're gonna do the other aileron, same exact thing. So let's do it. All right, everybody, next step, flaps, everybody's favorite part. So we've got our flap servos centered. We did it off camera like always. Just gotta bind it up to the radio. And we already made the push rods already. So these are your two shorter rods, or sorry, the two shortest rods you're gonna use. And then you make these out to 165 millimeters each, or 6.5 inches. But we usually use millimeters, it's a little more accurate.
And the manual
oh yeah,
is incorrect.
So the manual gets a little, here's definitely a discrepancy. If you're building this plane
for the manual,
for the flap section, good, Mary pointed it out. So right here on the flap section, the diagram tells you 6.5 inches is 152 millimeters. That is wrong. So you do the math, and you can see the calculations, I already did it. But what you have to do,
so 6.5 inches is 165 millimeters.
Yeah, 6.5 inches is 165 millimeters, just like Mary just said. But if you go by what the diagram actually says, it's actually impossible to do it that way because these rods aren't short enough. So Mary figured that out. She's like, it has to be 6.5 inches, 165 millimeters, right? That was, yeah. So that was really the only way it would work. So because you're pretty much bottoming out these ball ends. So this is definitely, you can't go any shorter, which is what their alternate direction said. It got a little confusing, but anyway, this is correct, 165 millimeters. So if you're doing the flaps on an XCub, 165 millimeters. All right, so we got that all made up. Servos are centered. Another thing they want you to do is mark these covers. So just take a little felt tip.
Just so you know which direction it's...
Exactly, because it has to go back on this way. The ailerons are kind of obvious because I have a cutout in them. So it's kind of obvious. But these, because the linkage is all internal, you can mess it up. So let's take the tape off here for the first time. Mary got it.
Yay.
All right. So you can see the holes already drilled. So we got 4 holes poked for the screws. These are already drilled. We will need to make some threads there, so we can do that first. Okay, set the CA side, we'll let those dry, and we're gonna move on to this. So we're gonna make the marks, drill the holes. Nothing you haven't seen yet. We can get our servo in there, guys. So let's make sure. Got our little mark.
Yep.
And then
servo goes, yep.
Goes in like that. Just lightly putting them in right now. We'll snug them all up at the last minute. Remember, we already chose the whole 16 millimeters out is what they want. So from the center of the spline to whatever hole is 16 millimeters, and for us it was the second hole. So we've already drilled it out to fit the M3 bolt. Remember, guys, where it uses the M3 by 12. Yep. So we're gonna take our rod, get it through one of the balls here. That's all set up. Looking good. All right, so let's put it in. Okay, so there it's poked out of the hole here. So let's take the tape off. This is where we've got the longer M3 again. Remember the M3 by 15, they've got us using that again. So I've got the washer, M3 washer on there. All right, cool guys, cool. Looking good, all right. Do a flap demonstration here, because I'm curious to see if they're gonna work too. So this is our flap lead.
Yep. I'll hold that.
All right guys, so we, like I said, we programmed the flap switch already. And if you watched our little sub video on our S-Bus decoder, because remember we ran out of channels, we only have an 8 channel, so we needed to add 4 more channels. I'm putting my flaps on channel 9 and 10. So it's pretty cool. Watch that little video on how to hook this up. So now we essentially have a 12 channel receiver, just plugged right into S-Bus. Let's plug the battery in.
Oh.
Okay, I gotta make that go backwards.
Backwards?
Flaps down, flaps up.
Okay, so that looks cool. So let's line up our aileron. Look at that.
Perfect.
So yeah, channel 9 and 10 are gonna be flaps. So this is 9, the other wing is gonna be channel 10. I will put a delay on here. Okay. So right now I got it at max speed. So we got flaps up.
Flaps down.
Okay.
What was that noise?
Oh.
Flaps up.
Was it hitting something?
Yeah, it's that. It hits right here. That's what it was saying. Okay, I remember.
Oh, so yeah.
They were like, yeah, okay. You gotta trim away right here. So that was what that crunch was.
Okay.
So it clipped right here. So we gotta kind of trim away a little right there.
Okay.
All right, let me do that and then we'll, let me trim.
To get in.
Yeah, before we break something, we're gonna trim away some of that. And it says it's in the directions because of the nut.
Okay.
So let's trim away some stuff and then we'll do another test.
Okay.
All right, guys, so we got the little part trimmed away that they said in the manual. So yeah, flaps are up.
Flaps
there we go.
Flaps down.
There we go.
Flaps down.
Perfect.
Flaps up.
So you gotta cut away a little bit right here. It's just to make room for that bolt. I'm gonna clean it up a little more so that line is like, you know, more of a straight U. Right now I just made sure that it wasn't hitting, but I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna clean it up so it looks like a nice even U again. And then I get a little silver paint to where that bare wood is that you have to trim away. But we got flaps. And what I was saying before was I'm gonna put a delay on it so it comes down nice. Actually, I can do it right now. I'll show you. It's super easy. So we'll go into mix. If anybody doesn't know how to do the delay, this is actually pretty cool. So we're gonna go over to mixes, go down to your flap channel, and this one is channel 9. I went the long way around here. Okay, channel 9, go edit, and there's your delays. Or sorry, you don't want a delay, you want the slow up and slow down. So slow up, we'll do 1 second. 1, and slow down, do 1 also. Return. Because we have 3 positions, we need the little snail symbol on all 3 positions. So edit. You can do half a second, you can do 2 seconds, but I like 1. 1's pretty good. Okay, back out. And our last position, edit. And we're gonna go over to slow. 1. Slow down 1. Oop. Okay. All right, well anyway, let's try our new slow flap, 1 second delay.
Flaps down, flaps down, flaps.
So you can see it's a lot smoother. There's a full down. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, a little quick tip on how to do a delay if you, or not a delay, I keep saying delay, a slow flap if you want to do that. But there we go, guys. Cool, and that's it. Just repeat the process for the other one. We're gonna set this aside, keep moving on. All right, everybody, so that's the end of video 1. We got both wings done. There was quite a bit on both these wings. Unlike the carbon cub, the hinges, the flap and the aileron hinges come pre-glued. So one less step to do, but you gotta build these linkages and put the rods in. You got twice as many control horns to glue in, and then you'll need that 1.5 inch servo extension, which we showed you. But yeah, so they're all done. We got the flaps programmed, the ailerons are all programmed up, and like I said, we're running each servo on its own channel, so we have full control of endpoints and everything versus using a Y harness. We chose to just do independent channels to get maximum control, and so far it's working out really good. But yeah, everything's done. Each wing is complete. The only thing left we have on each wing, the manual has you doing it right now, just kind of gluing these covers on. But you got to cut them out, and I want to shrink the wing, all the covering down before we actually do it, and I want to just kind of do it at the end. So we're going to glue all this stuff on at the end, these little covers, and then the light covers. So we're going to do the gluing of the windshields and the covers and all that at the end. But other than that, these wings are done. We can set them aside, and next video we're going to get into the fuselage. So we're going to install I think the wheels. Yeah, the wheels and the landing gear are next, and the lift struts and the jury struts onto the wing. So next video we're going to get the fuselage out. But yeah, that's the end of video 1, guys. We're finally getting going on this XCub. This thing is really cool. Mary, you're liking it still?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, this thing's awesome. This is such a beautiful plane, guys. And I know I keep bringing it up, but remember, these wrinkles, they'll all go away at the end. So don't worry, all this wrinkly stuff's gonna go away. But yeah, just if you guys want to keep following the project, just like, comment, subscribe like always. If you have any questions, as always, ask us in the comment section. But yeah, we're gonna keep going on this. Thanks for watching, everybody.